Hey everybody, I'm Amanda with DevExpress and welcome to 15.2 Launch Week and today's webinar, What's New for Reporting and Dashboards, presented by DevExpress CTO Julian Bucknall and DevExpress Technical Evangelist Paul Usher. Today's webinar will cover the new features we're introducing across our reporting and dashboard platforms. Thank you so much for joining us. I will now hand things over to Paul and Julian.
Thank you, Amanda. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to day 3, Julian, I believe.
Indeed it is, and hello to everybody too. Yes, it's day 3 on our kind of week-long series of webinars on what's new in 15.2, and I believe we're actually halfway through. So we've had 2, we've got 2 more to go. This is one of them. And we're going to be talking about reporting and dashboards.
Now, it's an interesting topic because reporting and dashboards is across all platforms. So we're going to be jumping into a bit of WinForms, some WPF, we're going to look at some HTML, and that in itself becomes an interesting challenge when showing you some new controls or some new features. But as usual, we'll break it up and I'll step everybody through reporting, and Julian, you can handle dashboards.
Why, thank you, Paul.
Now, we'll kick it off by jumping straight into the demo center after the obligatory slides. But I think, as we pointed out in yesterday's presentation, one of the questions that we still get asked so many times is where do the demos and source code get installed? So I'm just going to very quickly step you through that, because everything we show you, you can look at the source code. You can play around with these things. So if you're wanting to know where things are, head over to your C drive, navigate to your user folder, find the public folder, and that's the key. We install everything into the public area, and then into public documents, and you'll see in there each of the different versions of our controls you may have. We're going to look at the 15.2, components, and hey presto. So if you're looking for reporting, you've got a folder with the different languages available, C# and VB, and the same for dashboards. So anything at all that we show, you can play around with, deconstruct, see how we built it, and then of course the support teams are always available to answer questions.
And the other important thing to note is that the source code for the demos is also installed as part of your evaluation version. So if you're evaluating our product, we want you to see how easy, or if you like, how hard it is to use the controls in a real-world demo application.
So let's start by stepping through and looking at what's new in reporting. As far as new controls go, we've made it into a final beta stage for the WPF Report Designer. Now, we covered this a little bit yesterday with our WPF webinar, but Julian, explain why we're calling it a final beta.
Well, in essence, we ran out of time. We were unable to complete the testing and especially finding those bizarre edge case scenarios that always seem to come up with reporting in time for the release. And so we decided probably about 2 weeks ago that we weren't going to be able to get it ready for final release at the same time as the rest of 15.2. So we're calling it in our final beta, and in a few weeks, beginning of 2016, we'll be releasing the actual final release as part of a minor version of 15.2. And you know, talking of releases and 15.2, if you go down to your download center, log in, you should actually see a nice little December the 2nd present.
An early Christmas present.
An early Christmas present, indeed.
So the emails haven't gone out yet, but what you're telling us, Julian, is that 15.2 is available.
Yep, indeed. So we'll be setting up the email blast to everybody and letting everyone know that the 15.2 version is available in the download center, and have at it, have some fun. Anyway, back to reporting.
Excellent. So as far as new controls go, the WPF Report Designer is probably the big key element. But of course the teams work tirelessly behind the scenes on other enhancements, in particular performance and delivering other features to existing controls. It could be argued that the reporting tool, which has been one of our flagship products for so long, is really quite a mature product. So therefore, there's not too many new things that you could actually add. As far as enhancements, we've got changes to the web report designer, the web document viewer. We've added some cross-platform functionality. Now, of course, the reporting tools work across WinForms, WPF, ASP.NET, and ASP MVC, and of course we've got our HTML5 report designer as well. So there's a lot happening there. We've got some improvements in the data access libraries that I'll be talking about. Of course, reporting doesn't just mean the WYSIWYG or visual designers and displays that you're used to, because under the reporting banner, we've also got the document server, which is a non-UI based library allowing you to work with file formats such as Excel spreadsheets, so XLS, XLSX, the PDF document processor, so you can create PDFs, manipulate PDFs without having to use the viewer. We've got the Rich Edit API, so access to the likes of Microsoft Word documents or RTF files, and of course the Spreadsheet API. So while these are all a non-UI based framework, there's been a lot of changes in the background that we'll talk about. And then there's our other product, which is Report Server, and there's been some updates into that. Again, all this stuff is based on feedback from you, our customers. So keep that feedback coming in. The features that make it are the ones that get voted for the most, which you can do inside the Support Center. As far as Report Server goes, we've got a couple of nice new features there. The ability to incorporate the report as HTML body when it gets sent out. So not so much an attachment anymore, but you can actually embed the HTML. And instead of being able to send reports just on a daily basis, we've added more granular control that you can actually schedule hourly reports if you want. So let's jump over to the Demo Center and start taking a look at some of these new features. Again, to iterate that we provide all the source code, everything we're showing you in Demo Center, you can step through. I'll shut that one down and open the main Demo Center. We'll start out by looking at the document server updates. Again, I did say that this is a non-UI based library, but we can see using the WinForms sample some of the changes that are available. When it comes to PDF creation, there's a lot of different ways that you can do it within our control set. Obviously, you can export things like grids straight to PDF and other core components. Now, if you're wanting to generate a PDF from scratch, you've got that ability inside the PDF document API. Some of the changes that have been enhanced or added to 15.2 is the fact that you can now create PDF A2B and PDF A3B file formats directly in code. And when you generate a document, you can actually prohibit things like font embedding. Now, with this particular set of APIs, we've added the ability for you to be able to create new bookmarks from scratch, to actually edit existing bookmarks. So change the attributes, rename it, change its destination or its font style. And of course, the ability to delete bookmarks as well. I can show you quickly here. If I create document, this has been created purely from code, and you can see that you can embed images. You've got the full access to create different font styles and positioning. And you'll see that we also created the bookmarks on the fly as well. Using the API, I could save that straight out to a PDF file anywhere on the server or the client's machine. And of course, the best thing is that the PDF libraries, both the UI version and the non-UI version, are completely, there's no requirement to have Adobe installed on your machine, and all the licensing is bundled in with your EULA. The other thing for PDFs is the ability to create hyperlinks. So you can actually embed other images or URLs or URIs. If we come down to the file attachment demo, you can see here that right now I've got this one file called DevExpress.png. If I open the attachments panel, we can see that. Of course, as an attachment, it's not actually visible directly in the PDF, but I can double click and it will let me open in the native viewer on the machine to see the file. Obviously a transparent image at that point. I'll just close that. So within code, I can very easily attach a new document. Come through, pick a file that I want to attach, and you can see now that the butterfly is actually included inside that PDF as well. So another nice feature. There's been a lot of improvements in the graphics API. For example, you can now draw a region of an image within specific boundaries. You've got the ability to utilize different types of brushes. You can insert meta files as sequence of drawing commands, and you can also measure strings. Strings can also now be drawn within specific boundaries and custom alignment and word wrapping. So a lot of tweaky and nice added features into that graphics API. While we're in here, we'll have a quick look at the Excel Export API. Being a non-visual library, just show you some code snippets of creating the new Excel Exporter object. And of course, with a few lines of code, you can simply select to create your document straight out to an XLSX file, an XLS file, or even just a CSV file. I do actually encourage you to jump into the demo center. You can step through and play around with all the different basic actions so you don't have to go off and try and create sample projects to work through some of the API features. If you joined us yesterday, you would have seen some of the new features in the spreadsheet UI control. Of course, these have made it through to the underlying APIs as well. So directly within the spreadsheet document server, you can create a pivot table. Julian showed yesterday the visual aspect of that, and what you can do here is see the code that allows you to step through and do that directly in the non-visual manner. And then for the rich edit control, we've increased or improved the export performance of PDFs. To give you an idea, it's actually now twice as fast to create the PDF and results in 30% less memory. So we've got a lot of clients out there not just producing 1 or 2 pages, but sometimes documents with hundreds of pages to thousands of customers. And that kind of performance improvements make a big difference to the overall performance of their application. So sometimes it's not just about trying to deliver groundbreaking new controls, but it's going back and revisiting things like performance because we understand how important that is to you. We'll step out of the document server library and actually jump into reporting. What I'll do to start with is show you one of the nice new features inside the report designer or inside our data source containers. And again, this is cross-platform. So I'm going to use the WinForms designer to show this, but it is supported in the other elements. So here we've got the traditional looking Windows designer, and I'm just going to create a new report. In fact, let's do it by the wizard. What you'll notice, we'll step through the wizard, which should be fairly familiar. I can either create an empty report, data bound, or a label. I'm just going to choose next. And on the data source wizard or the data source page, you'll see that we've now got this option for an Excel file. See, we understand that a lot of customers use Excel to store data. It's such an important business tool. In fact, I've seen companies that try and run their entire organization on Excel data files. So the ability now to simply select an Excel file. But before I actually choose a file, let's show you this quick sample that I'm going to be playing with. So here I am inside an address file. I'm just going to use a small number of rows, but you can see I've got a header row giving all the different fields and then some basic data. I've got a couple of different people living in New York and a couple for Indiana as well. Yeah, you'll notice that I've got my sheet name as customers and then just the other 2 blank sheets. But what I've also done is actually create a range by selecting a couple of rows here, and you can see my range tool, I've actually created it and just called it NY. And I want to show you that how easy it is to bind data to not just a worksheet, but a range as well. So let's just minimize that. And we'll go out and point to that address file. Step through the wizard and choose next. And I get a number of different options as far as the import settings. It allows me to select whether I want to use the values of the first row as field names, which obviously in my case I do. It will by default let me skip any empty rows, and skip any hidden rows. So you don't have to worry if you've got some formatting that is hiding specific rows that you might not want to do in your report. We've allowed you to take care of that scenario. And the same thing with hidden columns. I'm going to choose Next. And here we can see the different options that I showed you in the spreadsheet. So we've got the sheets, we've got the customer sheet, then the other two blank sheets, but we've also got this NY range. So it's picking up the fact that there are named ranges inside that data source. Let's just select customers, go Next. Here I can see all the different column types, and it's gone through and actually defined what type of field it is, and of course I can override that if I decide that zip should really be a string, or I want to make something a string instead of a date, etc. Best of all, I get to choose the preview button if I want to actually have a look at what it's going to be importing. So we can clearly see it's going to import the first 1,000 rows, the data that I'm working with. I'll choose Next again, choose all the fields I want, and I'm not going to do any sorting, so I'm just going to go Finish, and it's going to add those elements to my report. So right now, if I choose Print Preview, I'm expecting to see all the data directly from my spreadsheet. Now, Julian, I think it's a really important pointer to think that we can bind now so nicely, so quickly to data sets such as an Excel spreadsheet.
Absolutely. We're essentially saying it doesn't matter where your data is, you can report on it. And that's Excel, and you're perfectly correct. A lot of business do use Excel as their database. They use it as their their accounting package. It's kind of scary, really, but people do it. So if you do have your data in Excel or in more traditional databases, we can report on it, and that's an excellent feature.
Now, I'll just make a quick call out as well to people on the call may not be familiar with some of the other features built into the designer, and again, this is cross-platform, but you directly can export to PDF, to HTML, RTF, XLS, XLSX, CSV, etc. So the beauty here is you can still provide your end users a report format that they're used to. And in fact, I was only helping somebody the other day who wanted to create a simple web service that automatically emailed some data based on an input to that web service. And within half a dozen lines of code on their web service, we were creating a report, binding it to the incoming JSON data, and sending it back out using the .NET Mail framework. And it was just, they were blown away at how simple or how quickly you could build that kind of functionality. Okay, so just take a quick look at, well, not even a quick look, but let's take a look at WPF, because as Julian announced yesterday, the report designer, yeah, final beta, but it has a ton of power-packed features in this particular version. I'm just going to launch it from inside the Master Detail Report editor, so I'm going to end up with a report that I can then move on from and maximize my screen. So inside this release, there has been a number of key enhancements. For example, we've now got the new report wizard. We've got the data source wizard. We've added dedicated editors such as the style editor, formatting rules. It's got support for all the DevExpress report controls, including sub-reports, charts, barcodes, and of course pivot grid. We've added a fully functional report explorer. So you can see here on the right-hand side, I can now navigate through my report the same as you've been able to in the WinForms version for a while. Of course, got my field list, and you've just got that nice look and feel to it. One thing that you may not be seeing straight away or noticing straight away is the new modern interface. See, previously we'd have the MDI document sitting inside this panel here, but instead we've got this nice ribbon feel, and if I want to create a new report, I can come up to the top here and simply invoke a new report. It's just a real nice set of changes and feel to the different interfaces. I want to design a new report wizard. I can come through and I can pick my data source exactly the same as we saw inside the WinForms one. So I've got this Excel data source as well as the traditional full database, entity framework, object binding. Inside the database itself, we've got support for about 15 major data providers. So it shouldn't matter what provider you've chosen, whether it's standard MS SQL, any of the big names, we've already got support for. So what other things did we enhance as far as reporting? Let's move away from WPF for a second and take a look at our HTML report designer. So the HTML report designer has been around for a few iterations now. One of the things that the guys have been working hard on is to deliver the rest of those key features that you've come to love inside products such as WinForms. So for example, we now incorporate things like the Report Explorer. We've added the Web End User Design UI. There's full support for all the other reporting elements. Whilst this is, again, one of those cross-platform tools, you can see that we're trying to bring everything in line, so it doesn't matter what platform you want to deliver to your end user. And it could be that you do a cross-platform selection. We've now added support for rich text editing. So inside the Web Report Designer, you can actually edit contents displayed by the XR rich text control. And you can also load data directly from an RTF. We've made improvements to the query builder. You've got the ability to now edit the order by and group by query clauses. You've got relationships between different tables that are automatically resolved based on foreign keys. And you've got the ability to actually preview the resulting data. Now, when it comes to the web document viewer, this version sees full support for Azure, which I think is a big thing since there are so many people turning to Azure for their cloud solution. And when it comes to exporting reports, you can now do that with the web document viewer asynchronously. So with one simple option, all your data operations can be executed in the background, providing that seamless asynchronous feel that people are coming to expect from their web experience. Now, there's some cross-platform functionalities that have been added. For example, we now have a feature to export directly to mail message. So you can generate a report and export the HTML straight into a mail message. So that, again, the .NET mail component, but filling the body with the report HTML. And then you simply set some basic email settings and send the report directly from within your code. As far as other enhancements, we've improved the single RTF export, so it's single file RTF export. So when you generate the RTF document, there's a lot of background improvements into that scenario. Now, Julian, I don't want to steal all the thunder today. Would you like to share some of the work that's been going into dashboards behind the scenes?
Absolutely, and thanks very much for that quick overview of the reporting suite. And as soon as I get control of the screen here...
It's all yours, sir.
All right, here we go. So let's take a quick look at some new features in DevExpress dashboards.
You've gone a little quiet, Julian.
Did I? Oh, I apologize for that. I've been just telling everyone I've been having some issues with this particular microphone, so let me boost my level a smidge more. There we go. Okay.
Very loud.
Oh, right. I'll be careful. So, a few major features worth talking about here. We got the big one. We spent a lot of time on performance enhancements. And basically, when I say enhancements, I really mean strap yourself in. This is a completely new experience. Now, scatter charts, we've added that, so we'll be seeing a demo in a moment. Conditionally formatted data bars, excellent feature. I'll be showing that as well. And just like in reporting, we have Excel support, both as a data source for your dashboard and also available as a file type for exporting the data from a dashboard item. Now, without further ado, I just want to have a quick look at the performance improvements since we spent such a long time over them. For 15.2, we've completely redesigned the client-side data processing engine. Out with the old and in with the new. Our goals for this new engine were essentially twofold: reducing memory consumption and improving the speed of client-side data shaping operations, such as grouping and sorting, aggregation and binding. Now, in my personal explorations of performance algorithms in the past, in general, you can either be faster, but use more memory, oh, that's bad, or be slower, but use less memory. The two seem to be correlated in some sense. Fast but lots of memory, or slow with not much memory. Well, with our new engine, we've improved both the performance and the memory consumption. The trick here, we found, was to load compressed snapshots of aggregated data into memory when they were needed. And as you'll hear in a moment, the improvement in both memory consumption and performance is significant thanks to the following techniques. We used dictionary compression techniques to replace common dimension values with integer key values. The dashboard's new data grouping algorithm uses hash tables with the integer key values obtained during that data compression stage. Now, I love hash tables. It's a dead simple data structure with linear performance characteristics. And using key values also means data grouping and sort operations are executed much more quickly. And we've also incorporated new multi-threaded algorithms to perform independent operations. The dashboard's data engine actually uses the TPL, which is the task parallel library, to perform these operations. Now, as you can see here in this particular table, the memory consumption has been reduced around 12 times for a small data set of 1.2 million records, and nearly 20 times for a larger one of 12 million records. So if you like, in 15.1, for 1.2 million records, we're using 620 meg of memory, and we've reduced that to just 50. That's 12 times less. And you see there the basic SQL statement that we're using for this comparison. Now, with memory consumption brought under control, the data binding performance has also increased, and this is around 50 times to bind data to your dashboard, as this table shows. 15.1 for 1.2 million records, it took 3.5 seconds to do the binding. In 15.2, it's less than a tenth of a second. I think the guys got really bored with watching 15.1 process 12 million records, but in 15.2, it's just over half a second. And this is the kind of improvements in performance that you'll notice as you use the dashboards in 15.2. And not only with the binding, we've also improved the overall calculation speeds within the dashboard grid and pivot grid items. We're seeing increases of something like 30 times or more for these normal dashboard type operations. So in all, as I say, some impressive and some welcome improvements. Now we're going to take a look at the new features in the dashboard. So just let me grab hold of the dashboard demo. And as Paul mentioned earlier on, remember, even if you're evaluating our product, you can still see the source code for these demos. I'm just going to select the simple desktop demo here and make sure it's maximized. Not as much difference here. Right. So over here we have pivot grid item, and we have some bar charts down here, and essentially we're showing in this particular new demo the Champions League across various European countries. So we have the various clubs playing football, and we have here the new scatter chart. So the scatter chart is essentially a series of points on the chart, and they're not just points, they're kind of bubbles, if you like, circles. So there is more information being imparted through the visual aspects of the chart than just points on a grid, basically. So if I select Spain, for example, there's a tooltip that which shows the number of goals for the clubs in the country of Spain, and the number of goals scored against, and the number of points gained through all those particular games. So as normal with a dashboard type operation, I can start clicking through the bar charts, for example. So here I'm showing 2012, and as you notice, clicking through the bar chart, the scatter chart is going to change according to the data for that particular year. So although I actually skipped over it before, take another look at that pivot grid on the right. Notice that the data bars there are two different colors. There's green and there's red. And if I basically scroll down a little bit, you can see a lot more red bars than green bars, and at the top there are a lot more green bars than red bars. This is an example of the new conditionally formatted data bars functionality. The green bars are showing a positive goal difference, that is, the club scored more than their opposition over the series of games, and the red bars are showing a negative goal difference. In other words, they were outscored by their rivals through the games. So that's one example of the conditionally formatted data bars. If I jump over to this human resources demo, we have here another grid where the data bars are colored three different ways. And in fact, the data bars are showing data. If I click on that particular column, you can see that the green bars show a value, a percentage value there from 0 to about 0.6. The blue ones go from about 0.6 to about, I think it's about 1, maybe just a bit less than 1, about 0.9. And the red bars show from 0.9% upwards. And so this is yet again an example of the conditionally formatted, so if I select by year, conditionally formatted data bars that you can use within your grid widget. Now, if I jump over to the sales overview now, over this particular demo, we've incorporated a further new feature, and that is the ability to export grid data in a dashboard to an Excel file. So here we have a grid widget here, and I'm going to select the Export To option, and we have Print Preview, Export to PDF, Image, and this new Export to Excel. So I'll click on that, and I can choose whichever format I want for my spreadsheet file. I can use XLSX or XLS or even comma-separated values. I'm just going to continue with XLSX, and I'm going to export. Now, this is where I have utter power, and I can basically, this is Paul's machine, but I'm going to go onto the desktop, I think, and I'm going to store the Excel file. And if I go to the desktop now, come on, I'm going to show you every single window that's open on this machine. There we go. So here it is. That's the one I just saved. We'll open it up in Excel. And as you can see, it has the same data as the original demo, which is that one. There we go. So there we go. So as you can see, we have the spark line inside the Excel spreadsheet, and we also have the same data in the same order with the same, not exactly the same formatting here, because this is something that's due to the dashboard grid itself, but at least we have the right data being exported. So that's the export to Excel, and that is pretty much for the major features inside the dashboards in 15.2. There are a bunch of minor features also added to improve the whole flexibility of the dashboard, so we can connect to Google BigQuery. The query builder allows more options now, top and skip, filtering of dashboard data, and so on and so forth. So all in all, I'd say this is adding up for an excellent release for the dashboard product from DevExpress. And with that, I presume there have been questions in the background. We have a couple of guys.
We've had some excellent questions, Julian.
Right.
The guys have been doing a stellar job of answering them. We've had questions such as, what's the best practice of binding header information into a report when you're using an object or a POCO class? Now, the answer has been provided. For example, you could use report parameters or even a report structure. I'd just like to make a call out to that Welcome to the Dark Side webinar that you and I did a few weeks ago, where we actually go through and do just that, show you how to use a report structure or a class structure to achieve that. And it's something that, in that scenario, I'm very fond of doing, rather than just trying to bind straight to data itself.
Gotcha.
Questions such as, can the HTML report viewer be used independently as a HTML JavaScript without ASP? Now, whilst it is a straight HTML JavaScript rendering engine, the actual report document needs to be generated server-side, so of course that means that at the moment it is required to be used in an ASP application. Can you use a cloud-based data source such as Salesforce? The answer for that is no. We don't provide such data source controls other than what's directly in the box. But, of course, you can use other .NET providers to get the data from anywhere and bind it into that iList, the iList or data set, and then bind it to your report. At the moment, I don't see any other questions that are outstanding.
Okay. So let me. You've got control back again. So.
Oh, I do. Sorry.
Yes. As a reminder, there is one more webinar in this series on what's new in 15.2, and it's tomorrow. Mihal and Don will be discussing what's new for HTML5 apps and mobile. Same time, same channel. So please make sure you register to see what's happening with DevExtreme. And with that, thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Like they mentioned, we do have one more launch webinar this week, What's New for HTML5 and Mobile. It's tomorrow at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, and you can check out all of our previous launch week webinars at devexpress.com/webinars. And again, today's webinar will also be available later on our DevExpress YouTube channel. I will post that link right now in the chat box for you. And you can check out tons of tutorials and webinars on our YouTube channel as well. And that is it for this one. Thanks to Julian and Paul. Thank you all for joining us. And of course, thank you for choosing DevExpress. Bye-bye.